Good morning, everybody. I hope everybody's well. It's a nice, lovely, sunny morning in Leeds. I'm Tracey Dawson. I am the Managing Director of Daletech Electronics, which I hope you can see the banner behind. We manufacture electronic assemblies, and for those who have no clue what I'm talking about, I hope you can see this, but we put components on boards. So some of you might know what a PCB is, a printed circuit board, and we design some of the printed circuit boards and mainly put the components on. So we're quite specialist because we only specialise in low volume, high quality type products. So although you'll be used to, electronics are in everything you use nowadays, so particularly your phone, whatever you're touching, we've got electronics in. We don't really get involved in those consumer high volume type products. We get involved in much more specialized type products. So our customers typically have their own product in their own world. So for example, stud welding equipment. We then become their partner and create the electronics that go inside the product, and if you like, is the intelligent part of the product. So the sort of customers we work for are, we do some medical products, some tags for baby receivers in hospitals. We do stud welding I talked about. We do controllers for dog hair dryers. Which has been quite quiet because there haven't been many dog shows this year. So there's a whole range of different applications. So when you talk about what's available at Daletech in terms of careers, we have masses of opportunities here. When you start to look at your career, I know there's a lot of emphasis on it for you, particularly now, and unfortunately, there's no getting away from the fact you're probably in one of the hardest job markets right now, primarily because of COVID and because there will be job losses, but also because I think generally employers are looking for something a little bit more now. And I want to talk to you about how you can make yourself more employable, but also about the careers that are available in our particular region. So I'm particularly passionate about manufacturing because we actually make something. And in the Leeds City region, there are over 1,600 manufacturing companies, which ranging from masses, from jukeboxes to hospital theatre lights to shower trays. There's just three off the top of my head, and they're all local manufacturers. So we're employing about 22,000 people at the moment, which is, we're a big manufacturer. And Leeds is in the top three. We are the third biggest manufacturing city in the UK. So there's an awful lot of opportunities around us. So if we look at electronics first, and you consider what sort of job prospects are within our company. Well, the first part of it is running the company. So there's a lot around business admin. And business admin can be from sales and marketing, so understanding our customers and understanding how we can get out to new customers and how we can become more successful. We also have functions around processing of invoices and sending out sales invoices, which are super important because that's how we'll get the money in. We also have functions around dealing with our customers, so dealing with their inquiries. Now, then you become into more specialised skills, because in order to deal with our inquiries, you have to have some understanding of electronics. And I don't particularly, I have to be honest. I am not an engineer, but I do have a good understanding of what electronic components are and what our customers are looking for. So our design team are qualified in electronic engineering. We have, this is really interesting actually, because we have a young boy working with us who is from Bradford University. He's actually doing an electronics degree, but he comes to us the 2 days he's not at uni, because he recognises that if you can learn the hands-on skills of electronics as well as his theory, he becomes super employable. And for us, it's fantastic, because by the time he finishes his degree, he's going to be an extremely good asset for us. So he's recognised that, and I would say if you have an interest, it doesn't really matter which area, but whatever interest you have, you need to align yourself with that. So if you can find work experience around the type of job you want to do, then it makes you far more attractive, because we can see that you have some understanding. So at the same time as doing his degree, he's also working. That means, you know, that's pretty hardcore. He's tired, and, you know, it's fine in COVID because we've got nothing to do, have we? But I mean, you know, you've got to think about the commitment that you're willing to give. We do, when you designing electronic products, then clearly you've got to have some qualifications. But generally, when you're talking about manufacturing, all we need are basic qualifications. We can teach you everything else. So we would look at you having maths and English, obviously. But even then, if you have the right attitude, there are ways around it. And if you think, yeah, but it's what I really want to do, then we'll find a way to help you. Because the one thing that's really important to anybody, that any employer, is your attitude, is how you come across. So when you come across, especially into manufacturing, because we're doing things and it's quite hard work, they're quite long days. And therefore we want people in our companies that love it as much as we do, and want to put as much effort in. And don't forget, we, as a manufacturing alliance, and I'll talk about this in a minute, but as part of the Leeds Manufacturing Festival, we recognise that if we don't get young people into manufacturing, then the sector will just wane away and it'll die. And that's not what we want. We want the Leeds City region to have the best manufacturing base in the north, and we can achieve that, but we can only achieve it with the help of you, young people, and your enthusiasm. So the sort of things you bring to our companies, which are really important, is your flexibility, your knowledge of IT, the fact that you understand the digital transformation, so you're quite happy at picking up software and dealing with it. All these things are really important, and especially when we're manufacturing, because as time has gone on, and certainly in this last year, we've found that lots of manufacturers have invested very heavily in how to manufacture leaner, using digital, using software, using sensors. So when you hear, particularly in the press, you hear about all this digital and AI and robotics, there aren't going to be any jobs. It's nonsense, okay? There's going to be lots of jobs. They're just going to be new jobs. So yes, there'll be a whole range of new jobs around robotics, and there will be a whole range of jobs around the new equipment that's now being manufactured. So in 5 years' time, we'll be looking at very exciting new jobs, and particularly around data and being able to analyse and predict when odd things are going to happen, when product isn't going through manufacture. So I think that's something you need to be aware of, that even us as manufacturers aren't completely aware of what the landscape is and what will happen in 5 years. All we know is that things are changing very fast. So we're looking at, if you're interested in, and I think probably while you're looking at your careers now, you have two things to think about. One is, do I want to be in manufacturing? I want you to be in manufacturing because I love it. There's loads of opportunities here. But you need to look at yourself. How are you going to look different? How are you going to be different to other people? Because to be fair, most of you will have a great CV. You'll have some good qualifications on there. You will have shown that you could study and go to college and be there. So I think that then you need to think about a more rounded way. And to be perfectly honest, the last thing I want to see on a CV is that you play football or you read or you listen to music. We've got to think about things that are a little bit more challenging than that. So in some ways, COVID has given us that opportunity, because we can talk about, have you been caring for somebody? Have you been looking after, even if you've been looking after, and you think it's just like a normal thing, that I'm not doing anything, but actually, if you've been involved in the care of your siblings or helping them school, things like that sound to you like, well, they're just normal things, they're actually quite important to us as employers, because if you've been in a position where you've been able to help younger people, it's telling us that you are willing to care and that you are listening and that you can work as a team. And if you can work as a team with your siblings, that's pretty good. So then we've got to think about, well, what sort of work do I want to do? What we want to see is not that you've just been to college, unfortunately, because we'd expect that. We're looking for to see if you can commit to work. So even, a part-time job doing something that you don't really like is actually pretty good for your CV, because it shows us that you're willing to commit and that you're willing to go that little bit further. We need to think about how your skills can work with the company. So when you're looking at where you want to work, you need to really research the company you're looking for. So don't just, okay, so I like manufacturing. Well, do you know what? Go and find the manufacturing companies. So for example, you'll have heard about the Leeds Manufacturing Festival. And unfortunately, we couldn't, previously we've had lots of work experience and having you coming into our companies so you can see them, and we haven't been able to do that. We've tried to do videos. I'm not sure it's as good, but I think a good place is go to the Leeds Manufacturing Festival website, which is really straightforward, leedsmanufacturingfestival.co.uk. And if you have a look there, you'll see there's about 30 different companies at least. Have a look at each of them and spend some time and look and see if these are the type of places you want to work. Once you've done that and you understand the company, when you approach them, you can weave in little things about their company that will pop out either in your CV or in your letter, that this is what you'd like to do, and that you understand where you're going. Now, look, we're all interested in earning money, because we've got to eat, and we've got to get up in the morning, we've got to get to work. But that can't be your primary driver, because if it is, you won't love what you do. And actually, you need to love what you do, because if you love what you do, you'll really enjoy it. The money will be secondary, because actually you'll get up every morning. It's not like going to college where you get up and you go, oh God, today I'll go. This is about finding something that will give you a passion, and that you wake up every day and think, well, thank God I worked there. Apprenticeships are just, I'm a great advocate of apprenticeships, because you can really see the value. So you can earn money, and you can gain qualifications, and you can continue your career. Now, the other thing that really needs to be considered carefully is whether you want to work in what they call an SME, which is what my company is. It's a small to medium enterprise, or a large global concern. So, something like Virgin or Sky, or, these big companies. And actually, you're young enough now to take a gamble and work in one or the other. So in a small company, the advantage is you're in a small company, you'd probably be looked after pretty well. There'll be lots of opportunities. The downside is you have to work as hard as everybody else. There's nowhere to hide, because everybody has to multitask and everybody has to help each other. The upside of working in a global organisation is that you are likely to have the opportunities to travel. So I was on a call this morning actually with the Armed Forces, and they do apprenticeships, and that would give you the opportunity to travel around the world. It's not for everybody, certainly wouldn't be for me. I like my home too much, so I would prefer to stay here. So you need to work out what you would like to do. The other advantage of a global organisation is they work completely differently. Okay, so in our organisation, we're very flexible. We can change what we do. We can listen to it, to people, and yeah, you're right. That's not working. We'll do something else. In a bigger organisation, it doesn't work like that. It's a bit like a big old dinosaur in that it moves very slowly, and there's a lot of layers to get through. But I think it's important that you look at both the options. Don't just look at one. Look at them in a whole. The other thing that I think is, and I've talked about it briefly, but I think this is so important. It's just down to attitude. When you walk into your interview, you've probably got about 30 seconds to make the right impression. And I promise you, if you've come in and you don't care whether you're there or you're not, or it looks like you don't care, it's all over before you started. And the reason it has is because we've got a lot of people to see. There's a lot of applicants now. And we prefer to have no one than the wrong person. Because as a team, you've got to have some good team players. And you don't want somebody in there that's going to disrupt and cause problems. And what does a good attitude mean? I mean, lots of people talk about that, but it's a very difficult thing to define, isn't it? So it's a big smiley face, yes, it is. And it's dressing appropriately. So not being overly dressed. And it's always a good question to ask, that is, what do you expect me to wear? Because some companies are super casual, some aren't, some prefer a tie. It's good to understand that. And you should always research where you're going for an interview, always, so that you understand the company, so that you can ask some relevant questions about what the company's going to do. What's their plans? Are they going for growth? Will they be opening another store or another depot? Those sort of questions, suddenly we're listening because you're showing an interest. It's not just about being completely compliant. It's about wanting to be part of a team. So it's a difficult thing to define, but as soon as you walk in, it's whether you've got the right attitude. Do you want to learn and do you want to be part of us? Because if you do, and that shines through, forget about the qualifications. We'll find those for you, but we need the right people in. And especially, if you're working with somebody like me and I'm really passionate about manufacturing, the last thing I want is people coming in here late or that don't really want to come. It's no good for us. I want to come to work and enjoy it. We're here way too long. So the next thing you need to think about is, I think you guys, some of you will be leaving this year, I'm guessing. And you'll be coming up to the end of the year and you've had a really rubbish year in terms of trying to learn remotely. And I hope that many of you will be able to get jobs or to secure placements where you can actually be in a room and physically with people, because I think there's a lot lost just by these wretched Zoom meetings, which are just miserable, really. They're great to be able to communicate, but I hope that you'll be able to find placements where you can actually physically be with people. I think that's really important. You need to be in a company that is aware of that you want to progress. Now listen, some of you might not want to, and that's fine as well. I think sometimes there's too much of an emphasis of wanting to be the next Richard Branson. You don't have to be. Just find your own level, and if you're happy doing that, that's much more than doing something that you pushed into a corner. The first job you get, you may not like, but do not just walk out of it. Stick with it until you found another option. It looks really poor on a CV if you had a job for a week or you left it after 2 weeks. it looks far more, it's far more advantageous if you've worked through it, even if you don't like it, because then it shows us that you're prepared to stick things out. And also, you know, life isn't always great. Some days are rubbish, and some days you've just got to get on with it, and other days are better. If 80% of the time you're enjoying it, I think life's pretty good. So there are a number of things you can do to make sure that you are more employable. And it's very important that you remember it's about your life. It's not your mum's or your dad's or your tutors or your brother's. It's yours. So if you don't want to pursue something that you want, not somebody else wants you to. I think that I have been very guilty of that, particularly with my own children, because you have an idea of what they should do and so on, and actually it's what they want to do, and that's much more important. I think that as we start to come out of COVID, and please God that's sooner rather than later, and it's really great to hear that, you know, you're back in college and that you've been able to get back in there. In fact, one of our apprentices here comes to Leeds City College, and you have been very well supported there, I must say, especially when I've heard other stories. So although it's been dreadful, I think you've got the best of a bad job. And I think that you probably know this yourself, being back and talking to people makes life so much better, you know, and being able to hear what's going on. So we talked about the Leeds Manufacturing Festival a little bit, and I'm sad that we can't come out and show you and show you all our different companies, but what might be very useful is that you go on the website and contact, give yourself a target, maybe 5 of the companies, and ask them, when are they going to do work experience? Can you go for a visit? Because we are trying to open up now, and the rollout of the vaccine's been fantastic. So that's allowing us to be a little bit more lenient and start to think, oh, okay, we can have people back in the building. I think that's really important. So rather than sit back and hope that you're going to find something, you need to be a little bit more proactive than that. So in fact, you need to be totally proactive. Life won't come to you. You need to get yourself out there and find it. So you've got lots of great tutors that will help you, but there's also an awful lot of other resources. So if you're thinking, you know what, an apprenticeship could just be for me, then I think a better approach is, you can go on the Gov website, can't you? And I think they've got apprenticeships on, and I've had a look at it and it's not great. And we're not necessarily, in the manufacturing sector particularly, we've not necessarily created a lot of opportunities this year, because we're still trying to get over. I think we're just sort of getting over COVID and we're just trying to look forward now. So it would be a really good idea if you started to message these companies and remind them, actually we are here, and we would like to know about your company, and we would like apprenticeships, because it's a two-way thing. It can't just be us. It needs to be, and this particular time is different to any other time we've had. So while you weren't at college and everything, and your tutors were rushing around trying to get videos online and trying to get people sorted, in our businesses we were doing the same. We were rushing around trying to get people at home and trying to get them work. Bit difficult when you're manufacturing, because we couldn't give people a bag of bits and say go home and make this. We had to make it COVID secure and keep people working here. And I think that we forgot a little bit that we've got to look forward. And what I've noticed in the last couple of months is actually that's starting to change, is that people, company owners are starting to look forward, because the last couple of months, although you'll be hearing in the press all the time, it's always bad news, but actually manufacturing sector's doing all right. we're pretty busy. Things are starting to come back, certainly in the last 2 to 3 months. So this is the right time to be approaching these companies as they're starting to scale back up and to start to look at over the horizon, which doesn't look too bad at the moment. But there again, I was the idiot that went into the press last year and said we weren't going to be affected by COVID. But I think that this time we're looking at the economists are talking about a boom later on in the year. I'm not sure that will be the case, but I do know that we are on a growth trajectory, and the manufacturing sector particularly. So you guys need to be knocking on those doors with your CVs, with relevant questions, and some of them are not going to answer you. Don't take it personally. They're just rude. Just find somebody that will answer you, because you will find the right person. And it takes a bit of effort. I think that's what I would say to you. Nothing falls into your lap. You have to find it. So particularly, I was very skeptical really about whether business admin would be a useful qualification, but actually in a company like ours, it's really useful in a small company, because to have somebody in that understands all the theory and understands all the rules and regs, if you like, and understand what's required in a business is very useful. The other thing that's going to be a really big boom is digital marketing. And all around, you'll all use TikTok and whatever. I'm lucky if I can use LinkedIn. So you guys understand, looking forward, where our new customers are going to be sat and what they can do, and what the best channels are going to be. And any forward-looking business is very much looking at their new marketing strategy and how they're going to go forward in the next year. There are so many different channels, and that's another thing that we've probably forgotten. Marketing has been very much on the back burner because we've been they talk about thriving and surviving, and I think we're only just coming out of survival phase and looking to thrive. So in these next few months, it's going to be about looking to the future and looking at what people are we going to need in our business to take us forward. How many apprentices are we going to need? What young people are we going to need? Because all of us recognise that we need you in our businesses with the right attitude. You might not necessarily have the right skills, but we'll teach you the right skills. That's not a problem. But we recognise that we need you for the future of our sector. So I really encourage you, please go on the Leeds Manufacturing Festival website and just have a look at that. If you want any information from me, I can't offer you site visits at the moment, certainly not for a few months, because one of our problems is because we're manufacturing, we're quite worried about getting COVID in the building, because if one person gets it, it could go through the building quite quickly, and then we're not manufacturing, and then we're back to square one, which we don't want to be. So, but I could, if I can help you, I will. If you want any advice about what sort of qualifications, specific qualifications in specific areas, then please get in touch with me. My email address is really straightforward. It's my initials, td@daletech.co.uk. And for me, I would completely encourage you to get into manufacturing, because it's great, because you actually make something. Does anybody have any questions?
That's brilliant. Thank you, Tracey. It was so great to hear so many positive messages from you there, and great tips for students going into, I suppose, what probably feels to them a bit of unknown after COVID, but you've made it sound like such an exciting time, and there's lots of exciting opportunities out there for young people, which is really great to hear today. One thing that I'm interested in is, obviously it's so clear to see how passionate you are about the industry. How did you get into the industry and get to where you are now?
Okay. So I qualified as a beauty therapist a million years ago. And one of my co-directors is laughing because she can see my face and knows that it clearly didn't it didn't do me any favors. Then I met my husband and we ran a company together, not this company, another company, for a good 10 years. We came into Daletech about 1990, and I just loved manufacturing from him, and that's how we did all sorts of weird and wonderful things, including get involved with the first ever satellite dish manufacturer in the UK. So the very big 1.8 meter dishes we were manufacturing in the UK. So the other thing I love about the industry I'm in is it's electronics, so it's changing all